it's a kind of very romantic final, isn't it? Really, you get Martin O'Neill against Neil Lennon. I think we got to the quarterfinal, saying we really could see it coming into view. This kind of final matchup, potentially Martin O'Neill's final game in charge of Celtic, and Neil Lennon. He's obviously his links going back Leicester, Celtic. They're so close even today. I think Lennon still calls him Gaffer, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So it's a great little story. I mean, it looks like a kind of mismatch really on paper, doesn't it? Really, Celtic against Dunfermline. Dunfermline ran out of steam a wee bit in the championship promotion race. Celtic obviously a high from last week, maybe sobered up from Saturday's celebrations. It's a kind of romantic final. I think it's an interesting one.
It's a great story. I can tell you something. We're looking at the pitch, and it looks absolutely magnificent.
It looks
an absolute bowling green, which I suppose you could argue should suit or might suit Celtic better. But Mick's right, a great story. Obviously Neil Lennon, big underdog, Dunfermline. Nobody will be fancying them getting into this game. Celtic going for the double, but I think we've said many times on here when Dunfermline were going through the cup stages and even in the league campaign, you never write a Neil Lennon team off. As I say, there'll be a massive price to go and cause a shock, but I'm a great admirer of Neil Lennon as a manager. I just think his teams, especially in one-off occasions, he's capable of coming up with a plan and a strategy and putting a team together, to make it really awkward for opponents who are usually higher up the food chain than them. So I certainly wouldn't rule him out. But listen, Mixie, in terms of the occasion, Martin O'Neill v Neil Lennon, you just couldn't have scripted it. If you'd have said that to somebody at the start of the Scottish Cup campaign, you'd have get carted away with the guys in the white suits.
But it's typical with this season, isn't it? Of all the things that are too stupid to think could possibly come true, you've got Martin O'Neill there, the master versus the apprentice at the end of the season for the Scottish Cup. I mean, I don't know about you boys, but I think I'm going to say we've been in this movie. We've never been in a movie like season 25, 26. Where we have been is at the end of the season. I remember Rangers had a couple against Falkirk and Dundee. Were they not 1-0s? I remember Celtic versus Dunfermline. Was it Doumbé scored the only goal of the game? Celtic versus Airdrie way back in Tommy Burns' time. When you look on paper and you think, given ordinary circumstances, there's only going to be one winner. And yes, the team that you expected to win has won them in these occasions, but only just. And it's been long and uncomfortable afternoons. Do you think there's any prospect of that, or do you think Celtic with their tails up, even despite the celebrations that have been going on since the weekend, should just have weighed too much?
But even in those games, Jacko, you're right. I mean, a lot of those games were tight when you didn't expect them to be. But none of them had the situation here where you could argue no one knows Martin O'Neill and his tactics better than.
That's true.
I mean, he's perfectly placed. Perfectly placed. I mean, he will know if there's one guy or one manager who will know Martin O'Neill's thought process going into these games, it's Neil Lennon. So that makes me think. I'm not saying Dunfermline are going to pull off a shot. I still think Celtic are going to. It should be too strong for them with the players they've got. Dunfermline have had a lot of games recently, even though they've now had a wee break up to the final. But in terms of coming up with a plan to make it really awkward for Celtic, and to stop them playing and to stop them getting into their rhythm, as well as causing them a problem at the other end of the pitch, I think Neil Lennon's he's definitely the guy to do that. So I think that alone gives Dunfermline a chance.
Do you not think, Scott, as well, see this season, the many times you sat this season with your laptop and watched in front of you and thought, what the feck is happening in front of me? I mean, I'm talking right back to the start of the season, managers, meltdowns, European exits, you get McTominay overhead kicks at that end of the ground, when your jaw's on the floor, halfway line goals, all the way up to up until last weekend. There's been 1,000,001 what the feck moments in your laptop. You think, is there going to be another one this weekend?
I said to you,
I'm ready for anything, by the way.
I said to you the other day, it genuinely, and I mean this, it genuinely feels like every game of football I've been at this season there's been drama in it. There's been a drama at the end of the game. No, there's never. You remember sitting just having a bog standard 3-0 win where you get your intro written by half time and everybody's happy. It just hasn't happened.
Never.
I mean, it's the stories this season. Even up to, I mean, we were laughing last week. Me and Andy went to the Rangers Hibs game in the midweek, which was meant to be a complete dead rubber. And I said to Andy in the press room before the game, this is like 2 hours before kickoff. I says, this is just too calm. No, there's nothing on this game. Something's going to happen tonight that just shouldn't happen. And within an hour, you James Tavernier basically walking out the ground in a huff after arguing with the manager. He's been left out. Then we got to the press box thinking Tavernier's left the building. Then he walks out onto the pitch and gets a standing ovation. It was just absolute chaos, and that was a dead rubber.
That was a game that didn't mean anything because all the attention was at Fir Park and Tynecastle.
Well, who knows what's going to happen?
I think you've got to factor in the 25-26 wheel of madness that could spin and land on something unpredictable again.
Yeah, and you mentioned there, Mick, that Keith mentioned that the Dunbear game was Neil Lennon's last for Celtic against Dunfermline, and he only scored 3 goals for Celtic, and one was against Dunfermline. So
did he get subbed that day or something like
that?
He gets subbed off by Gordon Strachan, and he gets subbed off by Gordon Strachan, Mick, and he almost walked out the stadium with strip on because of it, raging. Right. And then in the subsequent days after that, I actually flew over to Portugal because he was on holiday there, and I got the interview with him where he talked about it and how raging he had been at getting taken off. I think he'd calmed down after 2 or 3 days. But yeah, I mean, that was an extraordinary moment in itself. I just think it's as we've kind of touched on it, but I don't think we've quite got a real grip on how surreal this is going to feel when Neil Lennon walks Dunfermline out onto that pitch and Martin O'Neill is the guy standing in the opposite dugout. It is crazy. There'll never be another season like this.
To be honest, Jacko, there's been times this season when you're sitting at a press conference and Martin O'Neill watching the dugout, I think that I still can't believe this is actually happening. I spoke to Martin O'Neill probably last spring when he's doing his kind of speaking tour and all that stuff. I've done a wee bit with him. And if he said to me then, oh, by the way, in about 5 months' time you're going to come back as interim, then in another 7 months you're going to be lifting the league title, generally you'd be carted away. I mean,
and then going for a double.
And go for a potential double. I mean, it's an extraordinary season.
I don't know if you'll remember this, Mick, but you and I did a podcast with Martin O'Neill. It was Remembering Seville, and I remember I said to him at the time, Ange Postecoglou was still in charge, and I said, look, if something happened, if Ange was tempted away, could you be tempted? And he said, Daniel, get real. Real. I mean, he wouldn't have thought it in his wildest dreams.
And now here we are.
If he wins double on Saturday, the question is going to be: Is he going to stay on? That's going to be the question. And I think that maybe that's not quite the question. I think the question is going to be: that should Martin O'Neill get to decide whether or not he stays on? Yeah. If he does have a double, it should be in his hands. I think if he wins a double, you've got to give him the right to say, "Well, you've got first dibs, Martin." Yeah. I mean, we're all kind of assuming he's going to walk off at sunset, and I think he probably should walk off at sunset because we're going to get.
He's fudged the issue when he's been asked about it. He's been very careful not to overcommit to one or the other. It looks to me like he's keeping his own options open a little bit. Very
much so. I mean, I tried to kind of force the issue a wee bit after the game. We did a wee bit with him after the press conference. We did a wee bit from the daily papers. Try to kind of push him on a wee bit. And he kept saying the phrase, I mean, if they asked me tomorrow, I'd say no because I'm shattered and all that stuff. And I said, well, there's a key phrase there was, if they ask you. Have they asked you? And what happens if they do ask you? And he just kind of fudges. Oh, I'm too tired today. Then I'm like, but next week. Well. He just keeps dodging issues. It's
a classic case of football obsessive, isn't it? Football manager just getting a wee taste of it, and they just can't let it go. Even at 74, everything Martin O'Neill's done in the game, you'd think, right, what a way to go. I mean, that's now finally step aside, but. He wants to have a wee taste of success. He's been back in the dugout, the adulation. It's hard to walk away from it. And
he said Scott's given him a new lease of life at his age. And you can see that. You know, I don't think he really wanted to step away from the thing the first time around. I thought you could hear and see that in his words and in his actions.